Investigations that are truly shocking, European and beyond. Companies are actively helping the Russian shadow fleet illegally transport oil and earn billions of dollars. This has continued throughout the full-scale war. For example, a network of companies from Latvia, Lithuania and Estonia refuels tankers of the Russian shadow fleet, which Russia uses to bypass sanctions and export oil to other countries. Refueling vessels from these Baltic countries would go out into the Baltic Sea and refuel Russian tankers, which were actually there illegally and under European Union sanctions. In addition, companies from Malta, Greece, Spain and the Netherlands are also involved in the scheme of refueling illegal tankers. In addition to this, a New Zealand company managed by a British family of marine insurance specialists helped Russia's and Iran's shadow fleets transport hundreds of millions of barrels of oil and petroleum products worth tens of billions of dollars. And this seems to be just the tip of the iceberg which Europe has finally started to deal with. Trust me, some details of these investigations will shock you. My name is Pechiy. Let's discuss this topic together. But before we start this episode, I ask you to subscribe to this YouTube channel, give it a like, and leave a detailed comment under this episode. This helps promote the video on YouTube. Subscribe to my Telegram channel Pechiy News. The link is in the description of this video. There we publish breaking news as it comes in. If you want to support the work of this YouTube channel, you can do so with any donation, sponsorship, or paid subscription. You can do all of this using the links and details in the description of this video. It says there, support the Pechiy channel. Choose any format that's convenient for you. I will be grateful for your support. So I'll start, with Europe. A network of companies from Latvia, Lithuania and Estonia was refueling tankers of the Russian shadow fleet, which Russia uses to bypass sanctions and export oil to other countries. An investigation by Lithuanian public media company Lithuanian National Radio and Television revealed this. According to journalists, the tankers were supplied with fuel by a specialized group of companies called Fast Bunkering. Two refueling vessels named RINA were used for this purpose. Between June 2024 and March 2025, they refueled 286 tankers at various locations in the Baltic Sea. Of these, at least 159 were vessels that entered Russian ports shortly before or after refueling. In other words, at least 159 vessels served the Russians. Moreover, a thorough investigation concluded that at least 20 of the tankers refueled by the Balts showed clear signs of belonging to the Russian shadow fleet. And it was very hard to make a mistake. In particular, these vessels did not have insurance coverage from any member of the international group of P&I clubs, and their owners and management companies were registered outside the jurisdiction of the Oil Price Cap Coalition. So, it was kind of obvious that these tankers were clearly illegal. At the time they were refueled by the Baltic company, these tankers were already on the sanctions list of the United States, the European Union, and the United Kingdom. They will cite an investigation by Lithuanian public media company Lithuanian National Radio and Television. Russian tankers move billions of dollars in oil across the Baltic Sea daily. Despite heavy Western sanctions, this trade still fuels the Kremlin's war machine. The Baltic countries are also among the strongest supporters of isolating Russia politically and economically. A network of companies in Lithuania, Latvia and Estonia helps support Moscow's shadow fleet. March 8th. It's a cloudy morning. The crew of the tanker bunker ship Rina is ready for another day of hard work at sea. This vessel, functioning as a floating fuel station, refuels other ships passing through the Danish Straits. There's plenty of work to do here. The waterway connecting the Baltic and North Seas is one of the busiest in the world. On average, about 200 ships pass through it every day. Among them are tankers from Russia's shadow fleet, old insured ships with unknown owners. They help Russia bypass Western sanctions by selling Russian oil and petroleum products around the world, thus helping to keep the Russian war economy afloat. At 11 a.m. on March 8, one of these ships approached the port of Rina for refueling. The crude oil tanker BLYU, capable of carrying up to 1 million barrels of oil. It was on its way to Primorsk, one of the main Russian export terminals. From there, it was supposed to deliver oil to a refinery in Mangalore, India. That's the end of the quote. And then, Lithuanian journalists write the following. When the tanker BLYU was refueling near the port of Skagen, the flag of Antigua and Barbuda was flying on its deck. It only took a little research to find out that this is the only vessel owned by a little-known Turkish company registered in an ordinary apartment in a small port town near Istanbul. Let's take a closer look. Investigators decided to study the routes of this vessel, and it turned out that the 20-year-old tanker regularly turns off its automatic identification system. And this is a common tactic of the shadow fleet, allowing them to hide the origin route of the oil and its transfer to other vessels. Digging even deeper, it turned out that this very tanker, BLYU, had previously been spotted off the coast of Greece. It was transferring Russian oil to the sanctioned tanker Ligera in violation of sanctions, which then headed to Venezuela. All of this happened right under the Europeans' noses. But the story of the tanker Blue didn't end there. 8 months later, Blue was refueling from another bunker tanker called TSIRKON. This time it happened near the island of Gotland. And here's what's important. The refuelers RINA and TSIRKON belong to the Baltic bunkering giant FAST Bunkering. And this is just one of hundreds of cases that show this company openly refuels tankers of Russia's shadow fleet. Well, now get ready for a shock. According to S&P Global, from April 2023 to April 2024, near the coasts of Malta, Greece, Spain, the Netherlands, and other European countries, at least 3,100 refueling operations for tankers of the Russian shadow fleet were carried out. And that's only what they were able to track. And all of this happened off the coast of Europe. 3,100 tankers, but that's not all. The United States, Britain, and the European Union are investigating the population, together with a New Zealand company that helped Russia's and Iran's shadow fleets transfer hundreds of millions of barrels of oil and petroleum products worth tens of billions of dollars. The company is called Maritime Mutual. It's managed by a British family that has always been involved in tanker insurance. According to a Reuters investigation, at one point Maritime Mutual insured almost 1/6 of the shadow fleet tankers that Western countries had actually sanctioned. According to calculations by the Center for Research on Energy and Clean Air, for the agency, ships insured by Maritime Mutual transported at least nearly $17 billion worth of oil and petroleum products from Russia and $18 billion from Iran. $2 billion since the sanctions were imposed against these countries. These figures exceed those of many major players involved in the operations of the shadow fleet of Russia and Iran. So it can be said that the company managed by Britannia, turned out to be the record holder among those who helped Russia and Iran bypass Western sanctions. And now, the authorities of New Zealand, in cooperation with partners including Australia, the United Kingdom and the United States, have launched an investigation into Maritime Mutual on suspicion that the company may have contributed to sanctions violations and failed to meet obligations to prevent money laundering and terrorism financing. Reuters compiled a list of 231 tankers insured by this company since 2018, with experts raising concerns about 130 of them. They have transported oil or petroleum products from Iran or Russia since those countries came under Western sanctions. That's the situation with circumventing Western sanctions. It turns out that Western companies themselves are helping Russia with this. I'll leave it at that. Share your opinions and conclusions in the comments under this episode. Subscribe to the channel, hit the bell, and don't forget to like. That's all. Take care.